In just 1 hour, the U.S. government is heading for a partial shutdown. What, again? We're breaking down how we got here and what's next heading into the holiday weekend.
I'm tracking mild and quiet weather all the way out through Christmas, but our next storm arrives after that. I'll have the details coming up.
I think it's going to take a lot longer to pay off my student loan.
It's one of the most expensive seasons and interest rates are going up. We're finding out what that means for loans and those maxed out already on credit cards. KIMT News 3 at 10 starts now.
KIMT News 3, coverage you can count on. This is KIMT News 3 at 10.
And thank you so much for joining us. I'm George Mallet. Katie Lang has the evening off. We are now 1 hour away from a partial shutdown of the federal government. Now, late today, the House adjourned without a federal spending deal, all but assuring the wheels of government will grind to a halt at midnight Eastern Standard Time.
We're totally prepared for a very long shutdown.
President Trump not mincing words, although just days ago the president appeared poised to sign a continuing resolution passed by the Senate to keep the government open. The president then did an abrupt about-face, telling House leaders he wanted any funding bill to include money for his border wall.
President Trump, you will not get your wall. Abandon your shutdown strategy. You're not getting the wall today, next week, or on January 3rd.
The shutdown will mean 800,000 federal employees across multiple departments will go without a paycheck. Another 400,000 employees will be furloughed while the government is back up and running. The nation's aviation system, which is projected to transport almost 46 million passengers on commercial flights between now and January 6th, will not be impacted by the shutdown. Air traffic controllers who supervise flights and federal airline safety inspectors are exempt from furloughs. Last week, the president seemed willing to take ownership of any shutdown.
I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it.
But the president's subsequent tweets and public comments changed.
It's up to the Democrats, so it's really the Democrat shutdown.
That's a complete lie.
I agree with him. Border walls work. And he's been a very patient man with Congress.
A substantial chunk of our federal government will now close inside of an hour. Tonight, it's unclear when the opposing sides could meet and find agreement. And as mentioned before, that border wall was, of course, a big part of the discussion leading up to the partial shutdown. Now, some people are taking funding the wall into their own hands. Hundreds of thousands of people have donated to this GoFundMe titled, "We the People Will Fund the Wall," which has raised nearly $14 million. So we wanted to know what you thought about this crowdfunding effort, so we took to Facebook. Over 2,500 people voted in our poll, and it's a close race. 48% of you say you'll donate to help fund the wall. 52% of you say no way. Well, for many of us, tonight kicks off the holiday weekend. To find out if the weather will impact any of your festivities, why don't we get straight to KIMT Storm Team 3 meteorologist Brandon Libby. He's got his bar charts out, checking the forecast.
Thank you so much, George. We have a few fun things going on for today. Of course, it's the first day of winter. We also have a meteor shower for tonight, but we won't be able to see them because the cloud cover remains overhead. In terms of Christmas travel, looking very good out through Christmas on Tuesday, but then in the few days after that, we are tracking our next potentially major winter storm. More details on that later on in the newscast. Storm Tracker 3 Doppler radar right now showing that cloud cover in place across the viewing area. We do have a few returns. I don't think that those are making it to the ground right now, as we do have some pretty dry air. Some flurries will be possible for tomorrow and Sunday, though. Again, will not really be impacting travel because they will be pretty light. Temperatures right now in the lower to mid-20s. We're at 21 in Albert Lea and 25 degrees in Charles City. Your evening planner will show some pretty mild temperatures for tonight. We will be falling into the lower 20s in the overnight hours. Cloud cover remains in place, and winds will be from the southeast, pretty light, about 5 to 10 miles per hour. As I said, it's looking like a pretty nice weekend with a chance for a few flurries. We'll have that full forecast coming up in just a few minutes. George, back to you.
Brandon, you'll not get any complaints here. We're continuing to bring you the very latest on the assault on that trooper in southern Minnesota. Now, yesterday afternoon, Minnesota State Trooper Doug Ronhorst was conducting a routine traffic stop on Interstate 90 just east of Blue Earth. And according to the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, 2 people in the vehicle assaulted the trooper and then ran from the scene. Eventually, they were apprehended at Sportsman's Tavern in Albert Lea. Now, on top of knowing the identity of the trooper, we now know the names of the suspects turned defenders. Anthony Enriquez and Montrell Smith, they're both from Milwaukee and have now been booked into the Faribault County Jail for felony assault and possession of a controlled substance charges. Trooper Roundhorst was released from the hospital this morning, and both Enriquez and Smith are expected to be arraigned come Monday. Well, Christmas just around the corner, and you, like many Americans, might be maxing out those credit cards for the holiday spending. If so, you are hardly the only one. According to Magnify Money, that's a website that helps consumers compare financial products, the average American racked up more than $1,000 of credit card debt last holiday season. Now, maxing out your credit cards is getting more expensive. The Federal Reserve is raising interest rates by another 1/4 percentage point this week. The website Compare Cards estimates consumers could pay an additional $2.4 billion in interest payments because of this. Mike Rosick is the president and CEO of First Alliance Credit Union in Rochester and has some advice on what you should do to avoid financial ruin.
As normally you would, is just, pay attention to what you're spending and don't overspend. But certainly longer term, you could conceivably, if you have more than one credit card, you could consolidate them into a consolidation loan and pay lower interest.
Mike, that first part sounded like my mom. The last part did not. Rising interest rates could impact your student loans as well unless they're fixed. But LendEDU, a marketplace for student loans, reports 1.4 million students use private student loan debt to pay for school each year. One University of Minnesota Rochester student says she isn't excited about rising interest rates since she has some new loans to pay off.
Student loans are already hard to pay off. With higher interest rates, they're going to be even more difficult.
By the way, this is the Fed's 9th rise in interest rates since late 2015. Well, the search is over. Law enforcement has found and arrested the man they believe exposed himself on a Rochester city bus. It was just a week ago we told you that police were looking for a guy after a 16-year-old girl told them she dropped something on the bus floor, looked up and noticed the guy exposing himself. She told authorities he followed her off the bus and down the street, and before she was able to duck into a downtown business. Now, William Goad has been arrested for the crime and is facing a charge of indecent exposure. Say, if you rely on public transportation, listen up. There are some changes coming over the holidays, and you don't want to miss the bus. Plus, there's nothing like being with loved ones for the holidays. We're hanging out at the airport to watch people hugging and stuff. Stick around. Still to come, getting the gift of life just in time for Christmas. We're hearing from a double lung transplant recipient who's honoring his donor through an experience of a lifetime.
KIMT News 3 at 10, live from Rochester. Your local news with Katie Lang and George Mallet. Tracking storms with Storm Team 3 meteorologist Sarah Knox. Medical breakthroughs with Amy Fleming. This is KIMT News 3, local news from your community. We are coverage you can count on.